You know, every so often, someone comes along who doesn't just make a discovery. They completely change how we see the universe. They don't just add a page to the book of knowledge, they start a whole new chapter. And today, we're diving into the story of one of those people.
So who are we talking about? None other than the incredible Marie Curie. Now, it's a name we've all heard for sure, but her real story, one of pure brilliance, incredible sacrifice, and just sheer unstoppable determination, is probably way more amazing than you even realize.
Let's be clear, Marie Curie wasn't just a scientist. She was a revolutionary. Her life is this powerful story of immense courage and a mind that completely reshaped our understanding of the very fabric of reality.
So you gotta wonder, where does a mind like that even come from? Well, to really get a grip on her world-changing impact, we have to go all the way back to her early life. She grew up in an environment that fueled this unquenchable thirst for learning, even when it seemed impossible.
I mean, her journey was just a masterclass in relentless drive. Born in Warsaw, she was told she couldn't get a formal university education simply because she was a woman. But that didn't stop her, not even close. She joined this secret underground school called the Flying University and even worked for years as a governess, saving every single penny she could to finally move to Paris and enroll at the legendary Sorbonne.
And when we say challenges, we are talking about overwhelming odds. Back in her native Poland, universities were literally closed to women. When she finally made it to Paris, she was a foreigner struggling with extreme poverty. We're talking sometimes surviving on just bread and tea. And on top of all that, her childhood was already marked by financial hardship and the devastating loss of her mother and sister.
But then, in Paris, everything changed. She met Pierre Curie, a fellow physicist who became her husband and, her partner in what would become one of the greatest scientific collaborations in history. Together, they were about to unlock an entirely new field of science.
And this right here, this is the core of her breakthrough. While she was investigating these mysterious rays coming from uranium, she came up with a totally radical idea. The energy wasn't from a chemical reaction between atoms, but from within the atoms themselves. And she gave this phenomenon a brand new name, radioactivity. This discovery completely turned science on its head. It meant that atoms weren't these solid, unchanging little balls everyone thought they were.
And you have to get this picture out of your head of a clean, sterile lab. This was messy, grueling, physical work. I mean, imagine processing literal tons of mineral ore in what was basically a shed, stirring these huge bubbling vats for hours and hours on end, just to isolate tiny, tiny amounts of these mysterious substances.
And all that back-breaking work? Oh, it paid off, big time. In 1898, they announced the discovery of not one, but two new elements. First, polonium, which she proudly named after her beloved homeland, Poland. And then, radium, a substance so powerful it actually glowed in the dark and was millions of times more radioactive than uranium. So these discoveries brought her fame, right? Historic recognition. But this next chapter of her life, it's a story of the highest highs and the most devastating lows.
Her achievements just cemented her place in history in a way that's almost unbelievable. In 1903, she became the first woman ever to win a Nobel Prize, sharing it with Pierre and Henri Becquerel for their work on radiation. Okay, amazing. But then, just 8 years later, she did it again. She won a second Nobel Prize in 1911, this time in chemistry, all by herself. She is still the first person ever to win 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific fields. That is just staggering.
But right in the middle of all this success came an unthinkable tragedy. In 1906, Pierre was killed in a horrible accident. Absolutely devastated, Marie did what she always did. She channeled her grief into her work. She took over his teaching position at the Sorbonne, becoming the university's first ever female professor. She just kept breaking barriers.
But here's the thing. Her story, her real impact, doesn't stop with the awards or the titles. It was all about this core belief she had, that science wasn't just for discovery, it was for serving humanity.
And if you want to understand her character, this next part says it all. She and Pierre could have become incredibly wealthy by patenting their process for isolating radium, but they refused. They made a conscious choice to share their knowledge freely with the world because they believed scientific progress should belong to everyone.
And nowhere was that commitment clearer than during World War I. She saw this desperate need on the battlefield for X-rays to help surgeons find bullets and shrapnel in wounded soldiers. So what does she do? She designed and developed mobile X-ray units. They were nicknamed Little Curies. And she didn't just design them. No, she personally trained 150 women to operate them and then drove the units to the front lines herself.
So, what was the impact of her Little Curies? Well, the number is just staggering. It's estimated that over 1 million soldiers, 1 million, were treated with the help of her mobile X-ray units. This wasn't just science in a lab. This was a direct, life-saving application of her work, driven by her own hands.
So, when you put it all together, what do you get? Her legacy isn't some dusty footnote in a history book. No way. The glow from her discoveries is still lighting up our world today in countless ways.
I mean, think about it. Her discoveries literally created the entire field of nuclear physics. They led directly to radiation therapy, which is still a cornerstone of cancer treatment today. The Curie Institute she founded in Paris, still a world-leading research center. And, of course, her story continues to inspire countless women and girls to chase their dreams in science and tech.
You know, there's a quote from her that just perfectly sums up her whole philosophy. Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. It was that belief that understanding is the antidote to fear that pushed her through poverty, through prejudice, through heartbreaking loss. It fueled her relentless search for knowledge, not just for her, but for all of us.
Her story is just incredible proof that one person, armed with curiosity and a whole lot of grit, can literally change the world. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Inspired by a legacy like that, what great unknowns will we have the courage to try and understand next?